Perfect.
Hi, everyone. This is Ray Lufkin. I am an award-winning author, artist, activist, and the creative mindfulness mentor. And I'm so glad you've joined us for the Women Who Dare virtual summit. It's a gathering of incredible women, visionaries, teachers, presenters who are at the intersection of art, health, and social change. And today, our guest is Elizabeth Fisher-Good, and I'm so excited to see her and talk with her. I met her a number of years ago in Florida, and so we began a long association, but we haven't talked personally in a while. So welcome.
Thank you. So excited to see you again and to be here. Thank you.
All right. Well, I want to tell you a little bit about Elizabeth. She is an author, an activist, an international speaker, and a thought leader in the anti-sex trafficking movement. She is co-founder of Selah Freedom. She's been instrumental in providing freedom to nearly 10,000 survivors since 2011. She has created a foundation, and she's doing such amazing work in the world. And I've been so, as I said, privileged to know her, to work with her, and to get to find out about what it is. So why don't you start and tell us a little about your work and why you do it?
Yeah. Well, I came from Chicago, born and raised in Chicago, and literally moved to Florida with the goal of doing nothing. So that's how that worked out. So that was 12 years ago that we thought we just moved down and pretend we were on vacation, but
other plans that way. Yeah.
No, other plans along the way. Things happen. But, I created the organization that you spoke about, Selah Freedom. I was one of the co-founders of that 11, almost 12 years ago. I have since left a succession team over there. It's lovely when you're able to build something, turn it into a great, beautiful model, and leave a team behind. So I was able to step down from CEO a few years ago. But the reason that all this started is just the secrets. I mean, my passion in all things, like even now when you're like, talk about the new stuff that you're doing, but what is behind everything I've ever done is the passion to reveal secrets, and that secrets, we're only as sick as our deepest secret, right? And when I moved to Florida, finding out, I was just looking for a charity for an event. And when people said, how about the fact that our local children are being sold for sex in Longboat Keys? Yes, I'm like, what are you talking about? So for me, this whole thing has just been because, partly my own story and the secrets that I kept. And
why do you, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about that, because I think that tells people, when you say secrets, it explains, because I can tell my secrets too. And I did have a movement for a while that said brave women share secrets, because it is.
Yeah.
We've been shamed so often, and that you go and talk about the secrets.
No, I love that. I didn't know that about you. You've done everything. That's so cool. It's very cool, because I think, and when you said they shame us, it's weird that things done to us that we carry the shame. Right. And I think the movement to erase that and reverse that has been happening in recent years. But, as a childhood, as a child, I was sexually abused, and I was molested in different ways. I was raped at 14. But there was just never words. No one ever spoke about it. And like years later, even when I asked my mom and told my mom, she's like, oh, I suspected. I'm like, how could you suspect and not say? And that is what most women that, as I've counseled women over the last 25 years, so many of the cry of their heart is, why didn't my mom say something? Or why didn't somebody say something? People knew or saw something. And that's why my passion behind it. We launched housing and all these things over 10 years. But now what I'm doing is really in the sweet spot of giving a voice to children and giving a voice to grown-ups, grown women mostly, to finally reveal their secrets so their future generations don't have it. Right. It's very generational. It was very generational.
Yeah, I was in that same boat as you when we were growing up. It was like, any secrets stay in the family. You don't talk about anything, and I mean, I acted out slightly in the sense like, I got to the point where, I said, don't touch me again. And nobody asked why. I kept saying, and I do all these things and nobody asked why. I changed the way I painted. I changed, so many habits in my life, and nobody asked why. And I think that's such a key component, and then when and then I never revealed anything. I was abused from 7 to 13 by my grandfather, and never went into therapy until I was like 21. And, and then I told him, and then you get my father, it was his dad, and he said, well, it was a long time ago. Get over it. So you learn a lot by what other people's reactions are. It's like, okay, here I just bared my soul to you.
Let it go. Come on.
I know. Oh no, I have. But I'm just saying that's what happens.
Dad. I mean, this is crazy. You reveal these intimate things, and their reactions are so
they're not
non-emotive.
Yeah, and I understand there are so many. I mean, I got to share my secret. There are so many women who have died with their secret.
Oh, I know.
I did a walk. Northwest Casa had one of their walks. Men in red shoes. And that's when I put out the book, The Creative Activist. And the man from WGN who interviewed me started to tell me a story on his mother's deathbed. She told him what had happened. I don't want that to happen to anybody because it affects your whole life. And
1000%.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's just
I'm passionate about this, as you can tell. Yeah.
Right. Over the last decade, when I was speaking about sex trafficking and I talked about the root of it is childhood sexual abuse, and there's no such thing as a 7th grade slut. There's someone whose boundaries have been shattered and they don't even know that they should have a gate in place, and it doesn't matter because they lost their worth along the way. It was taken from them. And, every time I speak, I had a 95-year-old man come up to me at one event and he was just crying. And he's like, they just said I was a bad boy. They said I was a bad boy. And I'm like, man, that's pain that we carry around because we have not normalized this. And so that's sort of my passion. I always say I'm here to normalize the unspeakable because people are starving for it. They want a place to speak. They want to talk about it. They want to share. I wrote down when you said nobody asked why. People want someone to respond. They don't want it to just be like sharing it into a vacuum and nobody show any emotion. Right. People want to be matched with what they're feeling inside. So, now on
be a witness is what you've done, in so many levels, and giving them I talk about it as a safe space to be seen, heard, and understood. And when we get that, that's how we heal. And yeah, go ahead. Why don't you?
Absolutely.
Let's talk about a little bit about your book. Because go ahead, talk to people. Yeah. I mean, you did this during COVID, which I love. It came out.
Well, what's funny is the book, it takes forever for a book to come out. It came out with Harper Collins. So by the time it came out, it was like a month before everything shut down. And I did, because of, the organization I was running, was able to have speaking engagements all over the country and then just nothing. And so I feel like I had a God-inspired download in the middle of that, like probably April of 2020. And I just got a curriculum. Like back in the day, I used to write curriculum for different things, and I sort of love it. It's my geeky part of me that I just love, and getting into deep places. And I had a curriculum be downloaded to me with my book. And my book is not like, I think everybody at first thought it was just going to be about sex trafficking and what happens to people in that life, but it's a very, very personal journey. And the curriculum that now I have.
Tell people the title.
It's called Groomed. It's called Groomed, and we're on video, right?
Right. So, you can show the book.
This is the book. So, overcoming the messages that shaped our past and limit our future, because we all have groomers in our life. Not everybody groomed us in a sexual way, but to live under our identity or to come into agreement with things that are not really anything we should have come into agreement with.
I never heard the term live under your identity until you. And I thought that was really very good. I mean, it really explains it, because we're always saying, reach for the stars, step into your future, and, but it's living under, an identity that is not necessarily of our creation. It's the messages other people have given us, and we become our own, but it's not who we are. There's black rock. Yeah.
I think we were all created for purpose, and we were all created for a destiny, and we often fall short. People live under their destiny because of the messages that we come into agreement along the way. A lot of people are still living out of 7-year-old, 10-year-old messages that came in when they were 10, and that stole their confidence or made them not believe they were worth more or had the gift or the ability or the voice. And my book unpacks all of that, and it really opens people up. It's been so much fun to see the outcome and what people are saying after reading it, and especially if they go through some of my coaching groups with me. I mean, you just watch lives just relaunch on levels that I think they have always thought they could, but never felt capable of even accessing. So it's a neat journey, and along the way, you do get educated on what sex trafficking is and the importance of teaching your children to have a voice, and the importance of dealing with your own wounds, because until we deal with them, we don't even have the capacity to be an
Right.
advocate for others. Like when you say nobody ever asked why, or my mom knew and never said anything, they typically can't speak into what they haven't overcome
Right.
in our past generations. So we need to be the generation to
Change it
overcome,
all.
break
Right.
it. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember
to it all.
telling my daughter, she was in school, and some gym teacher was pushing her on the swing, touched her breast. I went ballistic, and so I went to the school and he got fired, whatever. But still, then I had
Good
to
for you.
tell her why. Why have I been so hyper vigilant? Because I called that. I was the mom who sat on the block and watched them ride their bikes long after other kids just did their own thing, but it made all the sense in the world to them once they knew what my backstory was.
Yeah.
And having to
understand the
find
why.
that's a big moment for, I think, a lot of people. When do you tell your children or, somebody intimate in your life what happened? So
yeah, I think with parenting, especially every age that our children hit something in us if it is unhealed in us, like my sister, I had a sister that was killed when I was almost 7. When my own daughter turned 7, I almost had a breakdown, because I think you don't even realize the trauma you went through, and your children being that little reminds you how small you were. Like I always tell people, go back to your points of trauma and then go look at a child that age and see how the thoughts that you have that you were responsible and it should be yours to carry, like how ridiculous that is.
Right. My grandchildren are 3 to 10. So I'm right at that age, and it's exactly, I see that. I watch my daughter navigate things in their lives and a safe touch conversations that, that didn't exist when I grew up, so they have come a long way. And it's sort of cool because my granddaughter said, oh, so-and-so. I said, I actually know him. He was the one doing the program at the school. I like, okay, so I know who he is. But yeah, I think we are traumatized, re-traumatized by our children and our grandchildren when they're going through whatever it is. And
we have an opportunity to heal. And I think that's a time to speak about it. I think giving words to things appropriately, because, on the foundation side, so now I'm running a foundation. It originally was called the Selah Way Foundation, based off of the first organization that I ran, but there's just been too much confusion. So the name has just been changed to the Foundation United, because what we are is we're taking leaders from all over the world, like some of the best leaders that I've met over the last decade or so. And we're realizing that we're so much better together. And if we can combine resources and come at things together. So for example, we have curriculum that is kindergarten through 12th grade, and it is called Speak Up. And it's a train the trainer model so that you can get it into systems. It's about getting it into entire school system, an entire aftercare system, teaching every adult, because it might be the lunchroom lady. Like I know in my own family, when my son was going through a hard time through our divorce and different things, and he was the one that was having problems, it was the lunchroom lady that would always say, oh, Max, how are you? And she would pay attention to him and see that he was sad, and so our Speak Up training actually gives the language, all the language, the safe touch, who is your safe person triangle. You need 3 safe adults, because if you tell this one, they might not respond. Maybe tell the, who a child thinks is safe, give them 3, and language from kindergarten on to put into the school so that they have a voice. And then you train the adults to receive it so that they don't ever feel like I said it and then nothing happened. Because that's the biggest danger, right? Is teaching a child to speak up and then the adult doesn't receive it on the other end. So we have this beautiful system now through the foundation that I'm running, that there's bills that are on the floor right now in Congress mandating the K through 12 train the trainer education model that we've built. We're partnering with Michigan State and Yale to have it researched. We're doing the national pilot program for it right now.
Fabulous. Yeah.
It's wonderful. And then we're partnering with organizations like Operation Underground Railroad, who's taken it to Thailand, because they're like, the Thai culture really needs this. There's a movement over there now for these children to be able to have a voice. And so it's really neat to see the leadership and the organizations come together and realize, it's not about opening more safe houses. We could keep doing that all day long, but what if we get ahead of it?
Right.
Start changing.
Well, I love this resource. So how could somebody find out about it and bring it to their school?
Yeah, we would love that. So if you go to the website, thefoundationunited.org, on our prevention tab, there's information about Speak Up. One of the biggest things that the audience can do right now is contact their legislators and all of the bill numbers are there, and say these have to pass. There's definitely the TVPA is one that has to be reauthorized every 2 years. So it got rolled in. This is the first year they rolled prevention for children into that. So we were able to draft that language, which is remarkable. So to tell their legislators in Illinois, whatever states you live in, your congressmen, your senators, like, let's make sure this happens. Let's move this forward, because then money goes to the schools, and the schools, because a lot of times they'll pass a law, but there's no funding.
Right.
So now schools can make sure, and that's why we're running out there. We're giving it away for free. We don't care. We just want it out there and piloted
Well, that is
so that
great
it becomes the
because,
go-to.
yeah, I obviously I have a lot of connections with people who may not, be connected to you right now that I can sort of send your way. So who
That
are
would be
doing work in the
wonderful.
field, from,
Yeah. And you know what? We have a counterpart that goes with that. So the K through 12 is called Speak Up, and that goes in the school systems or the after school systems. But we have something for the parents. It's called the Cool Aunt series. And that is something that also, if you go to the prevention page, it's downloadable. They can just click and purchase it and download it, because that is written by one of our global ambassadors of our, leadership of this organization together. She was trafficked. She came from a super affluent neighborhood in Pasadena, didn't have any of the predisposed, like you didn't see it coming, and she didn't have it happen till college. So I think we spend a lot of time down here talking about make sure they're not sexually abused, make sure they're not sexually abused. The opposite thing that could happen there is they're kept so in a bubble, like you and I kept our children so in a bubble, that they can be so naive that they go to college and they're so open to grooming. So it's that fine balance. So the Cool Aunt series.
Why don't you tell people what grooming is? I know, but they
Yeah.
probably don't have a clue.
Yeah, I think even so, they talk about it with childhood sexual abuse, and they talk about it later. It's so for a kid that maybe has been sexually abused and they, are trying to run away from it, someone on the street, they say within 48 hours, 80% of runaways will be approached by a trafficker who's an expert at grooming, and he literally just has to say, hey, I bet your parents didn't know how to love you. I love you. Oh, you're beautiful. And what traffickers will say is that they'll go to a mall and they'll look for a group of girls or a group of boys. And, a girl could go up to a group of boys and say, hey, you guys are a good looking group. Oh, and the boy or the girl that doesn't have eye contact, they can't look up. They're like, oh, that's my target. And then they just start pouring attention. With children, they'll say that a groomer, like a grandpa, could just start by, pushing them on the swing, touching them a little uncomfortably here. It's the slow breakdown of realizing something's wrong. And so this girl went to college, never having had experienced anything as a child. And now they say our stats are 1 out of 9 of our children are groomed on social media. Yeah. So they could be in their own bedroom. You think they're safe. You have no idea who they are talking to through these ridiculous apps on the phone now, because half of them vanish after they have a conversation. And predators will pose as a 14-year-old boy, telling your daughter she's beautiful. Oh, she's like, no, I'm not. Yes, you are. Send me a picture. Oh, that's great. What if you pulled your strap down? And they'll invest years, 1.5 to 2 years, grooming a child on social media, to the point I was in the White House. I was at the White House for a human trafficking, whatever it was last year, with the president gathered all of the summit, the human trafficking summit. And they had an Indian tribal chief, a distinguished older man, and he said, you know what? He said, we had the problem of making our daughter's world too small. We loved her. She was sheltered. She was protected. We thought she had enough pride in her culture that she was happy, but somebody got to her on her phone, told her she was beautiful, like exotically, glamorously beautiful, and that he was presented only a few years older than her. So she was maybe 15 and he presented that like 18 years old. He's like, I got in with this modeling company. If you meet me, I can get you in. Right. I'll take you to New York with me. He said, my own daughter, she found her own ride, 50 miles to the nearest Walmart, 52 miles to the nearest McDonald's. She found a ride to get up there, and her traffickers met her and took her. For 2 years, she was gone. So our children need to be, that's why this curriculum that we have is so vital, because how they are grooming them is truly textbook. And how we could teach them not to fall for it is also textbook. But until a child has that information to come into them, they don't know. They're just like, no, he thinks I'm beautiful.
Right. Someone's
a great guy.
Yeah. It's pretty scary. I think that the technology piece is just It is amazing. You know, there was David Schwimmer did a play at the Looking Glass Theater that he produced on sex trafficking. And it was all about grooming on technology. And I can't remember the name of it. I went to see it, and obviously they had a therapist sitting out there and everything for people who are, you know, triggered and things like that. But it was like, wow, you know, that was the first time I'd really been exposed, because obviously they didn't have anything. They didn't have after school specials when I was a kid, you know, so it is a different world. And, you know, and nobody has eye contact anymore. They're used to let's just text, and, you know, you build this quote relationship that's not real.
Exactly. Hey, we have a lot of work to do. That's why getting this curriculum to get to every child in America and beyond, getting the Cool Aunt series into every home. So parents, like what we're talking about here, every parent needs to have these words. They need to be able to speak. They need to be able to normalize and have conversations. And so the Cool Aunt series is just a springboard. It's fun. It's not done in a scary way. She's beautiful.
That's good. That's really
stories.
important, because this conversation, you know, you don't want to terrify your kids to the point, you know, but you want to just engage them in a conversation, you know, and get them talking, you know.
And you don't want parents afraid to dip into it because they know their own stuff's going to come up. So
right. Oh, totally. And, you know, and sex as a conversation, period, is terrifying to most parents, whether you've been abused or not. You know, it's like, you know, so your body image, you know, especially for women, is such a taboo subject that needs to be included in the curriculum. I don't know, but I feel like that, to me, that's an important part, because we don't know how to talk about our bodies and love ourselves no matter what. You know,
you know, and the stakes are high.
Yeah, they're very high. You know, so yeah, I mean, I've been active in this arena for a while, and it's interesting to watch how it's progressed and changed. And I love the collaborative piece. I think that's the biggest change, you know, over the years, is the collaboration. I always thought we should have a resource directory of people in this arena that, you know, so if you like, do you know Her Story Theater, Mary Bonnet?
Yeah.
Love, you know, Mary's got all these great plays. Well, that's the kind of thing you can bring to your community, even if you don't have any money and things like that. So I always felt like we need a directory that we can, you know, all of us come together, all the organizations who are working, you know, it may seem at cross purposes, but then we also saving money if we can figure out ways to, you know, use our funds together to create better and more programs.
That's exactly what we're doing at the Foundation United, because like there was one woman who she reaches the healthcare systems. Everything we're doing is systemic. So it's not like just one-off, one little part of the town or one town, but coming across the nation to bring systemic change. But she was about to incorporate her own 501c3. And I'm like, you don't even have to. You could, you know, you could just hub here. She uses, you know, we share CPA, we share marketing, we share, you know, like that all of that stuff.
That's a huge difference if you can use your money for really what matters rather than the infrastructure piece.
Right. So we have like 4 different things: the Speak Up series, our national training cadre, which is sort of the not just law enforcement training, it's the more of the Nordic model, like bringing in the arresting of the guys, the saving of the girls, having the girls' charges vacated because they had all these felonies over the years while they were sold for sex against their will and called prostitutes. So that we have a training of that, and the healthcare, which is global strategic operatives, we're all shared under the same 501c3.
I love it.
All of our back office resources are shared. It's so smart.
It is so smart. I am so thrilled to hear that, because that's the model I've wanted to see for years. You know, it's sort of like, okay, what else can you do? You know, it's sort of like, you need the training in the healthcare field. I mean, I remember when they started to ask questions, you know, you go to a hospital, you feel safe. You know, that was a huge deal, you know, just these little tweaks, you know, or working with hairdressers and, you know, nail salons, and all of a sudden, you know, you're getting people involved. That's the anti-series, you know, you can use the same thing, because you know, if somebody's getting their nails done or their hair, that's when you can hear about what's really going on. So
exactly. And they say research-wise that I think it's 87% of ER docs would stitch up a trafficking victim, have no idea, and give her right back to her pimp. And so now with this training, with educating our front line systemically across America, across the world, you're giving the front line eyes to see. I mean, the schools should be the biggest advocates.
Right, you need the training for the police, for the paramedics, all of them. They all
Mhm.
needed to find out, to really see, because they're just into, I got to get my job done without really paying
Right.
attention. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. It's desensitizing and getting like the paradigm shift to look
right,
at a girl differently, look at a boy differently, see what that might be there that's not being spoken. So
right.
it's fun. Like now I am, the stuff that I'm doing is like, I love, I love, I love. And then
Oh,
I'm
I'm so
launched a
glad. All right.
coaching thing. Yeah.
So now we've talked about that. Let's talk about your new program, The Journey to More. Let's
Yeah.
dig into that, because that sounds really exciting.
That to me, it's fun. Like my whole background used to be, I mean, I used to be in ministry when I lived in Chicago, but I mean, when I moved to Florida the last 11 years, I just got narrowed to sex trafficking. But it's every woman, everybody has a journey and a problem, right? Everybody has something they need to be released from to step into their more. So now that I'm running the foundation with so much shared resources, I have so much more time because it's lighter. It's so much easier to work together than running your own deal and just, staying in a little silo. So the book was the catalyst and sort of that first curriculum that came out of it. And it was just a 5-week study and the results were so tremendous. But I kept having friends saying, do more, do more. And I had gotten into this place for 10 years where I was so good at promoting a cause or promoting an issue, an organization. And this felt like, well, I don't want to promote myself or promote my own business, But they said, you're not, you're actually helping so much. You need to turn this into an actual business and roll it out. And I'm not licensed anymore, but I'm a therapist by training 20 some years ago in Chicago. And I don't do one-on-one work. I've never have. I love the dynamics in group. If you get a group together, and that is my gifting, is being able to facilitate it to the point where the questions are so probing and so deep that a woman says something and another woman listening over here or a man says, I can't believe she said that out loud. I have had that happen. I never would have said that. And then they have freedom to say it. Then this one says it. And it's like popcorn, the outcomes, the healing. So I guide people in just a series of self-discovery, a series of healing, but it's accelerated. It's like exponentially more. I call it like therapy popcorn. Like it's just like this.
Well, what makes it different? Why is it so accelerated? What is it?
I think the group dynamic, it's not a group. I've had like some of my family members had some things happen and they went into group therapy, like watching paint dry. They were in these things and the teachers talking and the students are just sitting there. This is like you and I and 4 others, but with the same level of vulnerability that you and I have been speaking. There's a guided series of questions and awakening that I ask that literally just leads to, as you share something, what comes out of you makes this person over here go, oh my gosh, I haven't even remembered that in my life. And I have that. And so the acceleration by week 4, people are like, I've never had this. One woman said 5 weeks with you, this was like 5 years of therapy. I've been in therapy for over 8 years and I have never had this level of breakthrough so quickly. So what I always tell people is, if I wanted to be a therapist and take your money every week for the rest of your life, I would do that. I don't want your money. I want you to get better. Like I will take it for 90 days and then you will be off and running because you have work to do. You are called for something more. And we are all living. I mean, there's always next levels, right? You've changed so much in your lifetime and there's more and there's more and there's more. And helping people have that support and have that just epiphanies. And whatever the gifting is that I have in me, that's my friend said, when are you going to stop hoarding your gifts? Stop hoarding your gifts.
Oh, that's a biggie. That's a huge thing. Yeah.
So I'm like,
yeah.
All right. So I launched this group and it's been amazing. Like to me, I just told my husband, because I had one earlier today, and I said, it is the most fulfilling thing I've done in years. And I've done a lot of things that are fulfilling. But I think because this is usually really powerful women, really successful women that know that they know that they know that they're sort of on the brink of this next really great level, but they can't seem to get there. There's almost like a sabotage. There's something there that keeps you just short of what you know that you know. And then after a while, we die to it because we don't think, And so this releases and it helps empower, and it's the most beautiful thing I've
What
been
is
part
one
of.
of your favorite questions to ask people?
You know what I do right away that makes people all go, I just say, okay, we're going to start out with, we talk a little bit about Joharis Window in the beginning. And, are you familiar with that? Joharis Window is sort of an exercise, has 4 windows. It's what you know about yourself that everyone else knows. Like, I have dark hair, you're sitting behind in front of a screen, you know, you wear glasses, everybody knows. The second one is what others can see about you that you might not know. And that is, you know, you go to dinner with someone, you come home and you're like, I have spinach in my teeth. They didn't tell me all night long. Everyone else knew that. Or like some of my family had a facial tic when they're nervous, they had like little tell, right? And they didn't know it. So you point out, then they're like, oh, geez. But then the other window is what you know about yourself that others don't know. And then the final window is what nobody knows. You don't know it yet. Others don't know it, but this is usually the part that needs to get released to come to your next level. And so the first thing we do is we jump right into the third box, like, okay, go ahead and share a secret, something you've never said, something that, you know, and what's fun about it is that I do it on Zoom. So I have women from like, sometimes I have a woman from Alaska, a woman from Tennessee. There's such anonymity and such safety that you know you're not going to run into them at the grocery store. You're not going to meet their husband who they might be talking about some of their problems about. And I say, you know, let's launch in, share a secret. And I think the factor of the anonymity, and I model it, I go first. I usually share something really intense. People say what they've never said, like that, and that's day one. Usually,
okay. Well, this is good to know. I never heard of that before. How do you spell it, Joharis?
The Joharis Window, Johari, and it's just a one sheet. It's just a worksheet. But yeah, they can learn more. My website is freewithe.com. So free with my name is
and
Elizabeth.
she has
I go by E.
Ebook for as a gift. Yes.
Yes. Free gift for you.
Yep.
And I'm going to be rolling out on the next week or so. People could join a community where I'll be going on with them live twice a month, sort of like you and I are here right now. I'll be doing that twice a month, and they could come on and we can answer questions and we could talk and they can learn more, because people aren't always ready to be like, sign me up for a group, but they might want to check you out for a bit. So I'm going to have my community launching next week, and it's just really great opportunities, because I think our world is in such a, you know, such a dark place. We're in more chaos than we've been. And if people can get their own freedom, I think there's a great call in this world for people to be fully alive and step into their full capacity and their full gifting.
I totally agree with you, you know, especially during COVID. COVID has, you know, has changed everything, you know, and some people have shrunk. And I know myself, I live alone. So there was a long period where I was in my house by myself, you know, and stuff like that. So, you know, I think that opportunity, I think it's nice because Zoom has opened up a world to many people and helped them create community where they didn't have it, as well as the anonymity. So it can be a both and, depending on what you're looking for.
Exactly. They're people you never would have met, but then they become your best friends, and there's safety in it, because it's not like you're running into them at the temple every Sunday or at your church. You know, you have this freedom to connect so deeply, knowing that you really are invested in each other in a very unique way.
Right. And I know I joined a group over the last 9 months and stuff, you know, and it's they're in Baltimore, you know, and it's called Soul Center. It's run through a temple, but it's spiritual meets, you know, Judaism. So it was sort of like a perfect mix for me. We do breath work, we do journal writing, we do gratitude, you know, we do the things that, as well as, you know, Jewish prayers and things like that. So for me, it worked out perfectly. And I've got all these lovely connections I've made, and all these women are saying, come to Baltimore, come to Baltimore. I said, I'm just not there yet, but I will, you know. And
but
and I did, I was honest, you know, with these women, you know, you're on in this case, every single day for like a half hour, Monday through Friday. And depending on what it was, there were conversations I had, and I talked about being abused. I talked about forgiveness, things like that, the tools that also help me heal, you know, gratitude journals, all those things. So I've gotten opportunities, you know, I don't want to preach in that sense, but I'm just sharing who I am. And I think that vulnerability is such a key to healing, you know, and that sounds like what you're bringing to the table is this vulnerability and modeling it for people.
I think speaking things out loud, having other people bear witness and hearing it, it's healing your brain as it happens, because we carry such a stigma that, oh, if I ever say this, no one would ever think the same of me. And the minute that you say it and everybody leans in and they share something similar, it's immediately healing. Neural pathways are reset. It's such a powerful, powerful way to rewire our brains. And it's so easy and it's so fun. And we were born for that. I think what you describe and what I'm doing, people are starving for authentic, real encounters and they want to relate back to their creator. You know, when you say your Jewish roots, I mean, if we believe in God, we believe that there is a greater purpose, and we want to walk in all
I
of
mean,
it.
for me, it's always been, you know, to be of service, Tikkun Olam, repair the world. It has been ingrained in me since I was, you know, 10 years old. So it's always been a part of my life. And that idea that we are all called here to do more, you know,
Yeah.
and in my case, and it sounds like in your case, you know, I took what my experience was and I said, I want to change the world. I want to change what's happened so it doesn't happen to the next generation or the generation after, you know, and to see things like the Me Too movement, which came about, it's like, wow, you know, it's not perfect, but it was not even a thought 20 years ago.
No, I love it. You know, it's like, remember before breast cancer was talked about, no one would ever say breast.
Right, it was like, yeah, now we got
the tatas.
yeah, football players wearing pink, you know, in October.
Yeah, we're finally talking about these issues. So think of what we're paving the way for 10 years from now. It's beautiful.
It is. Well, I want to thank you so much. This was a really a heart-fulfilling conversation, and I was looking forward to it. So thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you all for listening. And you can find out more at her website. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.